Hey, it's Lynn Brown. I'm a speaker, trainer, and coach with the John Maxwell team. The first half of my life, I spent people pleasing. And then in my spare time, I was literally trapped by the opinions of other people. Honestly, it was more like living in a mental prison. And then one day, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I took a step in the direction of my dreams. And Wayne Dyer is totally right. When I began to change the way I looked at things, the things I looked at changed. And it was that day that I was truly willing to bet on me for the first time ever in my whole life. that I began to become the person I was created to be. And there's a difference in being who you are and being who you were created to be. So today we're just going to talk about just the art of loving yourself. And so just take this deep dive with me today as we look into this. You know, self-love, that sounds so selfish, but self-love is not selfish. It's actually, you know, what it takes to truly become a gritty woman. And we know, we've talked about in podcasts before, you know, how this all came about, and there are specific steps and micro habits that we have to create in our lives in order to get different results. And me personally, it all started with gratitude. The G in gritty is for gratitude. And that's where it started for me. Then I began to see that I had this pattern of resilience in my life. So the R in gritty was for resilience, because I realized that even though I had not met, you know, with everything I had tried, I had not met with success, but there was this resilience about me. And the I in gritty, of course, is for inspiration. We have to, first of all, be able to inspire ourselves before we'll ever go out and light a fire in anybody else. And then thinking for yourself, Lord, the T in gritty, thinking for yourself and being tough. Those are the two things that I had to master. And then, of course, the Y in gritty is for just being you. So today we're going to talk about you. It's the first step. But if we don't value who we are, if I don't value who I am, and if you don't value who you are, how will anybody else ever value us? I mean, I personally, I'm just going to speak for myself here, but I could not give what I didn't have. And I discovered this was the missing piece. For so many years, I would step over anybody. Before I was married, I just stepped over people I loved out of that desire to be loved. And then when I started, you know, when I got married and had my own family, sometimes I would step over my own family to go out and save the world. Is there anybody else out there that has had to fight this battle? But y'all, I was driven by the desire to be accepted. Just by anybody, just by somebody, please, somewhere. And prior to finding the love of my life, that I eventually married and became the father of my two amazing sons, I was driven by the desire to be accepted. It's that same desire by somebody, anybody, somewhere. Let's just say I honestly thought that I was always going to be a bridesmaid and never a bride. And then finally, you know, I found this one person that was willing to just take me as I was. I never knew that my obsession and insecurities actually repelled people away from me. Whether it was my friendships, you know, my girlfriend friendships, or, you know, relationships that I was in. Talk about a blind spot. You know, I didn't realize that my fear of being unlovable was so obvious. Well, duh, that's why it's called a blind spot. But I didn't even know about blind spots at that point. But I can't remember the date and time that this lie actually crept in my heart and mind. You know, it became part of that message that was playing over and over. I mean, I was raised in a wonderful home. I don't want you to think that I wasn't. And my parents, they always provided the best for us. They did the best they could. Just like I'm doing the best I can right now, and you are too. We are all operating at our very best level of awareness right now. But regardless of your age or your relationship status right now, honestly, we're doing the best we can. Can we become better? Yes, we can. And I believe every day we should want to be better today than we were yesterday. And so as we become better and we grow, not only does that impact us, but it impacts those around us as well. And like I said, I was raised in this very stable home, and I was even in church every Sunday, but I wish I could tell you these two things were enough to keep the darkness out, but it crept in. When I say it crept in, it crept in. I wish I could tell you that, I had a teacher in elementary school or high school or a mentor sometime that was able to reach me, that was able to truly understand me and lead me to greater awareness. But I don't mean this in any critical way, but that just didn't happen for me until later in life. And I can remember when it began, when my awareness was raised in April 2011. It was my first realization that something had to change. And I didn't sign up for it. But, as I mentioned before in another podcast, when I landed in ICU, that has kind of a way of teaching you a crash course in life. And it was during that time that I began to let go of the fear of becoming, who I wanted to be. And I knew I had to make changes. In the last, few years, when Rachel Hollis came out with that book, Girl Wash Your Face. I can't remember if it was Girl Wash Your Face or Girl Stop Apologizing, but she said, stop being who you are and start becoming who you were created to be. And that was another one of those 2x4 moments. That just hit me right in the head. We have to embrace the change that we desire in our heart. And it's funny because life has a funny way of making us learn. Whether you want to or not. And honestly, truly, I'm not a fool. I didn't sign up for the class on bouncing back from a broken heart. It chose me. And leading my life was the farthest thing from my mind. I never even had anybody put my name and the word leader in the same sentence. So how could I ever lead my own life? I wasn't a leader, I thought. Silly me. I didn't know I was all the time. But anyway, because I based that on everything in my past. In high school, I was never the student council president. Or, when I got my master's degree, my dissertation, was not published at Florida State, But at the same time, somehow I always made it. I always landed on my feet. I didn't know that was resilience. I didn't know that was some fight that I had deep in my spirit to fight for my dream, even when I wasn't even aware of it. It was just fighting my way out of hard places was just my go-to thing. It was just my jazz. It's what I did best. And I couldn't see at that time that all those tough lessons, and let me tell you, when I tell you I've had one tough lesson, I've had 100 plus tough lessons, but they were shaping me and preparing me for such a time as this. And guess what? You're no different. All the things that you've experienced are creating, preparing, forming, making you ready for this time. You were built for this moment. During all that time, I was becoming a woman who would no longer settle for less. Yes, I'm a slow learner, but a quitter? Heck to the no. I am not a quitter. And as I began to be all in and live all in, my results and relationships began to change. There was just no more of that half-love kind of relationship and fake friendships. Let's be honest here. Real is what we're all chasing. There was no more shrinking back and being quiet for the sake of not hurting other people, or, afraid to voice my concern about things, those things that keep you up at night. But y'all, hear me on this. The first step in truly living a true, authentic life is loving you with your whole heart. When you love yourself, you begin to create healthy boundaries, and you no longer will just tolerate things. Saying no is something I had to learn to do, and it's a powerful tool. You need to add it to your toolkit. I'll be doing another podcast another day on our own leader grit toolkits. There are things that we can do little tools that we can tuck away in our brains, or actually I have a toolkit to remind myself. How many times have you done something out of fear of what other people would think, or out of fear of disappointing the other person, or not done something? You are worthy of love and respect, and regardless of where you are, just start where you are. It's the best place for you right now is where you are. In relationships, your cubicle at work, in the marketplace, at your church, I don't know, in traffic, wherever you go, all of your circles. Let me tell you, the women that I know that are the grittiest, they love themselves. Toxic people and their opinions have no place in your life. Now, I'm not saying write off everybody in your life that's negative, or not to love all people, because I believe we are truly created and we are called to love all people. Now, that's just my thing. But not allowing toxic people to feed your self-doubt is a biggie. Loving yourself wholeheartedly is going to produce the greatest return on your investment. When you invest in you and you truly are committed to become the best person that you can be, the one that you were created to be, you will see a huge return. You have a choice to choose, who you want to become. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you people in your life. It's going to cost you time. And it's going to probably at some point cost you financially. But you can choose who you want to become. And when you do, the ones who truly love you, those real, true fans, your cheerleaders, they'll be around. And they're going to be so happy and proud and just thrilled to see you flourish. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to tell you now, it's going to be hard. And most people don't like hard. It's funny. It's why people don't work out. It's why people don't, pass by the brownies. They don't want to do hard. And I've been there, trust me. But there will be times in your life that you're going to find yourself shrinking back because of maybe where you are, or habits or mindsets. They're just going to trickle back in. They never totally go away, but you're going to be able to combat them and fight them differently when you have these tools and when you have that decision made in your mind that you are not going back. So as long as, when that happens, as long as you don't camp out there, you're not going to set up all the, pretty white lights and, get out the guitar and start singing songs around the campfire. I mean, you're going to not camp out there, but you're going to fight your way back out. And these times will be shorter and shorter. When you begin to reinvent yourself, I mean, that's really what gritty women do. But when you begin to do this, you will begin to take the steps necessary to become that woman that you're dreaming about. And so I just want to, close this by just asking you a few questions. I mean, just a few things, for you to think about. But what if? I love that question. What if? I mean, what if you really begin to feel more joy in your life? And I can promise you this, guys, I do. I have it. I have unspeakable joy now. And if you don't, you can too. Trust me. I came out of a dark place, and you can too. But what if? What if you can let go of the shame and guilt? Hey, I know you can, because I did. And I am here to share with you everything that I'm experiencing. And when I say experiencing, because it's happened daily. But what if you did become who you were created to be? Not who anybody else thinks you are, not who you used to think you were, but who you were created by God Himself. Your designer, who you were created to be. What if you really could be that person? What if you could face failure head on? I mean, like, not be afraid, like run toward the roar. I mean, like when the doorbell rings and it's a package you didn't expect or order and you can't return it. What are you going to do? And what if you can suspend the need to know exactly how this is going to play out? Just what if? It's a good question. What if? That's all I have for today. But I want to encourage you, there's never been a time more important than for you to become your beautiful, gritty sister self. And just what if?